Hey guys, what's going on? Dr. Gonzo Boogie here again, back for another video. And in this video, I was going to give you guys sort of a review and give you guys my thoughts on the new Blair Witch movie that just came out in theaters last year and was just released on Blu-ray a few days ago. I actually went down to Walmart and picked this bad boy up yesterday, and I watched it last night, so I figured I would give you guys my thoughts and do somewhat of a review on the movie. But actually, first, before I get to the new Blair Witch movie, I wanted to show you guys this Blair Witch box set that I have on DVD. This is a box set that came out probably around the time the second film came out, Book of Shadows, which is a horrible, horrible movie, but I'll get to that in a second. But before I do my review on the new Blair Witch movie, I figured I would give you guys a review on the other two Blair Witch movies. Just really quick reviews, and then I'll get to the new one. And at the same time, I kind of wanted to show you guys this box set. So this is going to be the Blair Witch video. So here we go. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the original Blair Witch film. I think it's one of the better horror films to come out of the 90s, and I really do think it deserves to be up there with all the horror greats like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, Halloween. I just feel like it deserves to be up there. It's just that uniquely of a scary film. I just love everything about the original Blair Witch Project. It was one of the it was the first horror movie to really get that found footage genre popularized, which I'm not the biggest fan of the found footage genre, but the Blair Witch Project did it really well. And that's one thing that I find is not the case for a lot of the newer found footage movies. The original Blair Witch Project looks genuine. It looks like you're actually watching footage filmed by some people in the woods, and everything about it just seems realistic and real, and the way that the characters deal with the situation they're in seems extremely realistic, which is something that the newer Blair Witch Project, I think, got wrong. But I'll get to that one a little bit more too. But let's take a look at the Blair Witch Project box set first. It's a pretty cool set. I'm actually missing, if you guys can see, there's a little part in the box set that is missing, and that is actually, it came with like one of the Blair Witch necklaces with like that little symbol. But I bought this at like a thrift store for like $2, and I was missing the necklace, but I didn't really care because the rest of the box set was really nice. So let's take a look at the rest of the box set too, if I can get all the stuff out of here. Alright, look at that. Alright, so there's the sleeve here. Pretty cool stuff. There's actually like a picture of what the necklace looked like right there. Stickman necklace. Cool stuff. I actually wish I had that. This actually isn't that expensive of a box set, so one day I might pick this up brand new just so I can get the whole box set, you know what I'm saying? Alright, so let's move on to the Blair Witch films. Actually, first off, this box set comes with this like weird thing called like the Blair Witch series. It's like some sort of like online video game thing, like PC thing. I mean, not like online, but it's like some sort of like PC video game thing that came out in the 90s. I'm sure it doesn't even like work on a new computer anymore, but if you guys can see that at the bottom, it's like the Blair Witch PC games collection. Never played that, never played any of those. If you guys have played those and they're any fun, definitely let me know down in the comments. We just figured I'd show you guys this. It's kind of weird. But here's the copy of the Blair Witch Project. Classic poster art there. This movie is awesome. So let's get to reviewing it. So I'm sure you guys know about the Blair Witch Project. Basically, it's about like 3 film students who go up in the woods to make a documentary about the Blair Witch, which at the time they're making this documentary, they just think it's local legends. They don't think there's an actual witch in the woods, which is what eventually happens in the movie. But the main character, she's making this documentary, and the other 2 guys that go with her are just there to help her film it, basically. And they don't really seem like they're really close friends, but they know each other, maybe from like school or stuff like that. They don't really go too much into the background of the characters, which I think helps with the movie too, because I feel like what you know about them is all you need to know. And the movie doesn't explain too much before you go in the woods because it's shot in that found footage style, and it's shot really well this way. And how you learn about the legends is the movie starts off kind of with interviewing some of the locals from the town that the whole Blair Witch legend is from. And you hear little snippets about these legends from the locals, and you don't hear too much, but you hear just enough to know all you need to know, that there was at one point somebody who might have killed some kids in this woods, and he was murdered in the woods. And there's a few stories you hear at the beginning, and basically all you need to know is that this woods is just bad news. There's been bad things that happened to this woods, and it's cursed. But they set off in this woods to shoot some footage. The first part of the movie, they're trying to find this cemetery in the woods, and they're also looking for this rock because it has significance to the documentary they're filming. So those are the two things they're looking for. So the movie starts off basically normal. It's just them filming parts of their documentary, and you hear little parts about the Blair Witch and everything like that. But when the movie starts to get a little weird is when it starts to get night out. And the first night that the characters are out in the woods, and this is one of the things that I find is really unique and really well done in this movie, is the build-up and kind of the anxiety of the build-up that this movie does. And there's not too many movies that do it so well, and that's why I think Blair Witch Project works so good and is actually a scary film. I mean, I watched this again last night. Like, I watched this one, and then I got around to this one, and this movie didn't scare me at all. And the older Blair Witch Project, I was having trouble getting to sleep after watching it. It just truly is a creepy film. But let's get back to the story here. So yeah, the first night they're in the woods, they just hear, like, it sounds almost like people are walking around them. That's it. It's like they don't give too much away. There's not like anything crazy going on. Just a little bit of weirdness. And that's about it. It's creepy, but it's not over the top in any way. It's very subtle. And the next day, they start to feel like they're getting lost. And this is another thing that adds to this movie just being so creepy and just working so well. Is this idea that the characters feel like they're starting to get lost, and they really are starting to get lost. But the main character, the girl who's directing the film, keeps insisting that they're not lost and that she knows where they're going. So the second day kind of picks off where the first one left off. They're just going around the woods. I think at this point they're looking for this cemetery to film in, and eventually they get to the spot where there's some creepy little things hanging off the trees, like this Blair Witch thing made out of, like yarn and sticks hanging from the trees. And so they film this area and everything, and then it gets dark out, so they end up camping out at this spot. And that's the second night, and stuff starts to get even crazier that night, and they start to hear more noises outside. The noises are louder. It sounds like trees are falling over, rocks getting clanked together, just very subtle but creepy noises they hear. And that's about it with this one. They wake up the next day, and they what happens now though is that they really start to feel like they're getting lost, and it starts to affect the group. And I feel like this is very realistic, the way that the movie handles this part, where the characters in the movie sort of start to turn against each other. They don't really trust each other anymore, and the situation around them is getting a little bit crazy. They know they're getting harassed by somebody at night. They don't know who it is or what it is, but they are aware that somebody is trying to harass them. So they do want to get out of the woods, but at this point the characters realize that they really don't know where they are in the woods anymore. And actually around this time, one of the characters actually loses the map. So this adds to the whole stress of the situation, because now they really don't know where they're going. So the characters are really pulling apart at each other. So it's like kind of this downward spiral, whereas the Blair Witch, where the characters are getting harassed more and more each night, and each day the characters are just kind of losing it more and more. So you almost are like in the same mindset as these characters, because you're following them and you're watching this footage. And what I found when I started, the first time I rewatched this movie, was that I started to dread when it started to get dark out in the movie, because I was like, oh, and I'm like, no way these characters are gonna have to spend another night in this woods. And that's basically what happens for the next good chunk of the movie. They increasingly get lost. They have no idea where they're going. They're circling around the same area. Basically, they're just getting themselves more and more lost and deeper into this woods, which just adds to the whole creepiness of the characters, because the characters no longer feel safe. They don't know where they are. They don't know what is harassing them. And at night, the next night in the movie, the Blair Witch or whatever is attacking them at night gets even worse, to the point where they hear something really close to the tent, and then it starts like smacking the tent, which is one of the scariest parts of the movie. The characters run out and start screaming, and basically just the movie gets even crazier. But at this point, one of the characters goes missing the next night, because earlier his stuff like had this like jelly all over it from when they got attacked at night, and he thought that he was being marked. So that character is actually missing, and the movie just gets crazier and crazier, and it all builds up to just this crazy part at the end of the movie where they find this creepy old abandoned house in the woods. And it's just so nuts. I don't really want to ruin the ending, even though basically the ending is it's left open kind of for the audience to interpret what they want, I guess. It's there's not like a really solid ending. There's no crazy twist at the ending, and I think that works. The movie has a very subtle but creepy ending, and just everything about the original Blair Witch Project is great. And that's about all I can say about it. I don't want to ruin any more of the movie than I already have. It's just a uniquely and genuinely scary film, and I highly recommend it to anybody. So let's do a quick review on the Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows. This is just a horrible sequel. Like I said, this is like the Highlander 2 of horror films. Not only is this movie not a found footage movie like the original Blair Witch Project is, but this movie basically has nothing to do with the Blair Witch Project at all. Basically, it seems like it was just this generic, shitty horror film that they just slapped the Blair Witch title on, and they sort of tried to connect it with a few scenes. But honestly, if you watch this out of context, you wouldn't even know it had anything to do with like the Blair Witch movies. And that's really all I can say about that one. The Blair Witch Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows, is just a horrible, stupid movie. And compared to, I would say, like I said, this movie I think deserves to be up with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all the other horror greats as one of the best horror movies ever made. Where Blair Witch Project 2, I almost wish it was just never made. It doesn't give any. It's a pile of garbage, is what I'm trying to say here. So let's get to the new Blair Witch film. I already mentioned a little bit as I was talking about the original Blair Witch film that I didn't think this movie was as scary, and I also don't think that this movie was built up as much as the original one. I didn't feel connected to any of the characters. None of the characters were interesting in the new Blair Witch Project, and it just didn't have that slow build, that creepiness. It was missing that entirely, and I just didn't really find any of the parts of the movie that scary at all. And I would say probably the best part of the movie, though, is towards the end of the movie, again, just like the original one. They find this creepy abandoned house in the woods, and they go in it, but it's not even really the part where they're in the house that is the creepiest part of the movie. I feel like the only really creepy part of this movie is earlier in the film they mentioned that there's like an underground tunnel system in the woods. It had something to do with like the Underground Railroad, and the girl gets locked. The main character in the movie gets locked into like this like basement thing, and the only way out is through these tunnels, and that was just really creepy because you know that the witch like crawls through those tunnels, so you know that's just a bad place to be, and I thought that was a genuinely scary part of that movie. But other than that, there wasn't too much going for this movie. This movie wasn't that bad, but it relied too much on really cheap jump scares, which are like jump scares that aren't actually like anything behind them. You know, just like their friend, like, "Oh hey, what's up?" And that's like the jump scare, like, "Ah." Like I hate jump scares like that. Like especially when that's the only type of jump scare you get in the movie is the friends like surprising each other, you know, like grabbing each other's shoulders and popping out of nowhere to say like hi or to say something stupid. It's like that's a stupid excuse to try to scare the audience. And also this movie had to put the witch in the movie. Like the original Blair Witch movie, you don't even see the witch, and it's still a scary as shit movie. But the new Blair Witch movie, they show the witch like 2-3 times, just brief seconds. You see it like creeping around in the background. It looks kind of like a creepy pasta video that you would see on the internet. And, you know, the witch didn't look unique at all. It just looked like a generic like CGI monster type thing. And I thought that was disappointing too, because I didn't think it was scary. Like I mentioned in the first movie, you don't even see the witch, and that made it more scary because you have no idea what is after them. It could be like an old lady looking witch, or it could be a monstrosity, creepy beast of a person that is the witch. And that's one thing that the first film did better again, was just leave that open to the audience to decide. And this one, you see the witch, and not only do you see the witch in this one, but they tried to like amp up the gore in this one. There's a couple scenes where one of the girls in the movie gets like her foot cut and it gets infected, and there's a few gross out scenes with that, and those were kind of nasty. It's like the original Blair Witch didn't have to rely on any of that nasty gore type gross out gore to make the movie scary in any way. And they also had a few scenes that I just thought were kind of stupid, where one of the girls breaks one of like the wooden stickman things, and one of the other girls there like breaks in half. Basically it was kind of like a voodoo doll thing, you know, like with the wax figures when you melt their heads, like a real person's head would start burning, that type of deal thing. And it just seemed over the top for the Blair Witch Project. I mean, the first one again was just such a subtle movie that just seemed a little bit over the top for that. So yeah, I don't know, not too much good I can say about the new Blair Witch, but it wasn't horrible. I mean, like I said, it was way better than Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, but still, it could have been done a lot better. And it just shows that sometimes when a good movie is done right, it doesn't matter if you remake it or make sequels to it, you're just not going to capture the uniqueness of the original film. And that's just one thing that's just the case with the whole Blair Witch series. The original film is great, and it doesn't need sequels. I mean, that's the thing, I wouldn't mind to see more sequels because I love the original one so much. If they made like more Blair Witch movies, I would probably see them, but that's the thing, that none of them are ever going to be even close to as good of a movie as the first Blair Witch Project. But alright guys, that will be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, like always, definitely give it a thumbs up or leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.